Hey everyone, my name is Britt Yap, and I am the founder of Holomua Healing Arts, Holomua Healing University, High Vibrational Child, which is a nonprofit, and Perpetuate Hawaiian Culture, which is my other nonprofit. We are here today, Caroline and I, just because I feel like you need to get to know me a little bit more. And this is just a fun hour of figuring out how my mind works a little bit, my story, my mission, um, what this healing journey has been like for me and what made me want to take the leap from just using these tools to work on myself to saying, okay, no, now I'm ready to help other people with what I know and with my gifts. And so thank you, Caroline, for being here to interview me. I really don't know all the questions that Caroline's going to ask me, so this should be fun. Usually I'm on your side because I used to be a journalist. Usually I'm the one asking questions, even as a life coach, but this is going to get to be fun for everyone to just get to know me a little bit more.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this. This is
Yes.
going to be really great. Should we just hop right in?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. So first question. So where did your healing journey start? And how did you know that you wanted to help other people?
I was 20 or 21 years old, so it's probably like 2005, around there, when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And hearing a diagnosis that you've never heard before, and then they tell you that most people who get this are 60 and over, it was very interesting. I still remember that I was at Straub Hospital on Oahu when I was diagnosed, and I knew for a long time something was wrong with my stomach and my colon, because of the pain, just how much pain I was in. And at the time, my fiance at the time, I didn't end up marrying him, but my fiance at the time went off to the Iraq War, and he was away for a year. And I think he trained for half a year prior. So it was a very stressful time. And him being, an infantryman, really put a lot of stress on me, my body. My mind was always like, am I going to get a phone call that he's dead? It was just a very stressful time. And I did not have any what we call these days self-care routine. Like, I was in college, I was busy. I was very type A back then, pretty OCD. And for the first time in my life, I really felt completely out of control. Like, I had zero control over someone that I love coming back home, and I couldn't do anything. And so over time, because like I said, it was a year, um, that built up. And my mom told me one day, she's like, you need to go to the doctor. Like, we need to go and see a specialist, because the internal medicine doctor didn't know what was wrong, was giving me medication that was counteracting with my body. I was throwing up, like nothing was working. And I don't know why. Now actually talking about this right now, I don't know why he didn't suggest a specialist the first time.
Right.
He didn't. And so I did a lot of internal medicine stuff. And then it was my mom. She flew to Oahu and she's like, I'm going to take you to a specialist. We're going to do a colonoscopy. And that's when I got diagnosed. So that's really the beginning of my journey, living with a chronic condition that no one my age had,
Yeah.
that no one understood, that none of my friends, it doesn't look like anything's wrong with me. And it's not like cancer or something else that people understand and can sympathize with. So it was really rough, and I felt pretty alone, going through that, and also pretty alone, being, the other half of someone at war. There wasn't too many people in my circle that I could relate to, of having a chronic condition and dealing with that. And that was very, very stressful time. I was like 2021 when that happened. And that was really the beginning of all of this. Yeah. Whew, like looking back, like, because I don't get to talk about this all the time, but now, like, really reflecting back, yeah. And then just like I was getting my bachelor's, my master's degree, very stressful time. So I figured a way to manage my symptoms and hide it for the most part from people. But I remember the doctor saying, you will have to be on these pills for the rest of your life. And when I was diagnosed, it was 9 pills a day. And I thought, that doesn't feel good. 9 pills a day for the rest of my life? Like, no, because up until that point, when we get sick, we take something and then it goes away.
Right.
I never heard the word pills and indefinitely in the same sentence. And
Yeah.
that's when the first time a yellow flag or yellow light went off in my body that was like, I don't like the sound of that. So I went on in my 20s just trying to figure it out, trying to manage it without letting it affect work or school or my social life, which was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really rocky relationship after someone comes back from war. It's tough, and there's a lot of PTSD for both of us, really. But we decided to launch a mixed martial arts magazine, and I was 24, and I was the youngest publisher, I think, in the state of Hawaii at the time. And I don't know if there was anyone younger after that, but it was pretty amazing because it was like my dream come true. I always said I wanted a magazine. I didn't know what it was going to be in, but I played sports my whole life. I played team sports my whole life. I was also in gymnastics and soccer and softball and basketball and you name it. I tried it all, but soccer was the thing that stuck with me throughout the years. I even played all the way up like to collegiate soccer and all of that stuff. So yeah, just kind of navigating my 20s with like I wish I had a Holomua Healing Arts someone to talk to. I wish I had someone to explain to me how my mindset and stress and my gut and all this stuff connected.
Yeah.
Because I remember being that age and people telling me it's all in your head. But what I think they should have said is the thoughts that you have are causing you stress. And that stress has now manifested in your colon. But no one said it like that. So the more they said it's all in your head, the more I thought I have to show them that it's not just in my head. I'm actually physically in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, a lot of my 20s. And it wasn't until I met my husband in, I think it was 2010. So what, a decade? No, less than a decade.
Yeah.
So that would have been about 5, 6 years later. I met my husband, and I had to tell him. I said, "Hey, I have this thing called ulcerative colitis. I got more colonoscopies than most people would ever get in their life. I was getting it like every year, every other year to check my colon, because what people are afraid of is that if you don't manage that, it turns into colon cancer. And we all know that colon cancer is one of the quickest ways that people go, because by the time you realize you have cancer there, it's like too late.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of colonoscopies. So I told him about this, and I ended up moving for him to California in 2011 because I met him on a trip in Hawaii, and it was really rough because I had a death, a new job, and a move all within 8 months, and like two
Wow.
new jobs. And so that stress and not having any family or friends, in California, and like it was really stressful. And
Yeah.
so 2012 was my worst health year of my life. Ended up in Kaiser, Oakland for a week. Doctors basically told me the only thing they could do for me was to remove my entire colon.
Wow.
And up until that point, no one's ever told me that that was like the only option. And they were basically saying, this is all we can offer you because you're in so much pain, you're not eating, you're bleeding out a ton, like that all we can do is remove it. And I didn't feel right again. It almost was like a flashback to the doctor saying I had to take those pills for the rest of my life. It was like that. I was like, like I don't feel this resonates. And so I remember they told me on a Friday to make a decision. They even brought the surgeon in the room right away, talked to my mom, talked to my husband. And I was like, dude, I'm still loopy. And you want me to make a decision about my body part right now? Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not being rushed into making a decision. Like, the doctors will be here on Monday. So I asked the doctors to leave me alone for a few days, like for the weekend. The nurses were still coming in and taking my vitals and stuff, but I was like, no, people need to leave me alone. Like, I need some time. And sure enough, before the weekend. I wasn't eating, couldn't walk, in a ton of pain. And at the time, we were trying to figure out a way to move back to Hawaii. And I had a job for a politician. I was actually going to work. I've worked for politicians in the past, but I was going to be her chief of staff. I was going to be her right hand person.
Yeah.
And I had to make that phone call in the hospital and say, I am refusing the job. I cannot come back to Hawaii. I need to take care of my health. And I don't like failing people. And I was supposed to start that job 3 days later. And I'm in the hospital bed, pretty much dying. I'm not going to die from ulcerative colitis, but I will die if they're giving me medication that are counteracting. And that's what was happening. Like they were trying everything and like nothing was helping. It was actually making me more sick. So once I made that phone call and decided that I was going to put my health first 100% and take everything off the table, because I like, if I'm not alive, then like this job doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I called this woman, and it was a hard phone call, but I had to tell them, like, I'm sorry if I let you down, but like I have to cancel on you. I can't take this position. And I knew they were pretty irritated, but I was like, dude, like, you want me to die first and then call you? Like, so I had to just have clear boundaries of where I was at health wise. Once I made that decision, it took like a huge ton of bricks off of me. But also what happened that weekend was when I was sleeping, I felt like they showed me the other side, and they showed me what heaven felt like. And then I had this download, which now I know is from my guides. Back then I didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
I had a download that if I got myself in this mess and I made myself this stressed out to the point where I'm sick and like dying, I can heal myself. And it was the most empowering thought that was placed into my head that whole decade, was if I got myself in this mess, I can get myself out. And that's all I needed to feel and to understand, that I didn't need to remove my colon. And I actually felt the surgery wasn't going to go well. I don't know. I just knew. And so by the time Monday rolled around, I was eating, I was walking, my blood count, like all of the blood work looked like a lot better. Like the doctors were like shocked. I still remember them coming in and talking to Rod and I and just being like, just shocked. And the doctor walked over to Rod and she was like, what did she do? And he was like, she made a decision. She made a decision. She made a decision that there was other ways to heal, and she didn't want to have this surgery. And that's Britt. If she makes a decision, it's going to happen. And she got very clear and made a decision. And the doctor was like, well, and so, yeah, like a couple of days later, we left and I was able to go home and start my recovery from home. Was I still in pain? Was it still hard? Oh, absolutely. But for a doctor to say, you have to have a surgery, there's no other way, like, this is all we can offer you, to like a couple of days later to be like, oh, we can send you home now. Like, I was like, okay, so I learned a lot of lessons there about healthcare and doctors and trusting your intuition over any authority figure. You have to trust your intuition. And I'm so glad I did, because I still have my body parts. And it's been a long journey of healing myself. It's been a long journey. And I think I didn't finally get off. And then, they had me on these pain meds that took me, that whole opioid crisis, and they were just handing out pain meds left and right. I was part of that. So I know what it's like to feel addicted to pain meds, because I was on that. Shoot, I would say up to 2017, 2018. Wow. Like, that's how long I was taking pain meds, for like 6 years. And I was already doing Reiki, and I already had my healing business and all of that. And I had to like finish that last piece of just getting off of the pain meds. And I finally did. But I can definitely relate to people who, and once again, this pivotal moment when I go to a Tony Robbins seminar, I go to UPW in 2018, I believe. And I just decided that I was done with the meds. Because in the past, I would try to get off, and I would feel, my body would feel weird, and I'd feel like I needed it, right? I was having all this withdrawal symptoms. But when I went to the Tony Robbins thing, I told myself, I'm not going to have withdrawal symptoms. And that I would be fine. My body would be absolutely fine and absolutely happy to stop the meds. And I remember at the end of the seminar, was a Sunday, I took my last pill and never took it again that Monday on. And I never had any withdrawal symptoms, like
Wow.
at all. But I had decided
Yeah.
that I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
And so it's just been, yeah, it's been pretty crazy, this whole ride. But yeah, with Reiki, did you have another question? I hope, like, I don't know. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good.
That's a
You're
long
good.
answer.
No, you're good. So you talked about like two really powerful, like pivotal moments in your life that kind of start to like funnel you into where you are now.
Mhm.
What happened after all of this to lead you to Reiki and more like holistic approaches to health and just to life in general?
Yeah. I think my mom is a big part that planted seeds, because when I was growing up, she would take me to like holistic practitioners. So it wasn't weird to me to go, like, I was getting massages since I was like 11,
Mm,
because I was playing sports all my life. So I was getting massages seriously since I was 11, like regularly, like
yeah.
several times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my preferred actual self-care now, is massage.
Yeah.
Um, I do self Reiki a lot, but I prefer, for my own relaxation, like massages.
Yeah.
And so she would take me to these Hawaiian healers growing up. She would take me to some Chinese healers. She would take me, like, I was very exposed to different modalities, and ways of thinking, and like, you know, and so I remember several times going to these healers and them feeling my hands or working on me and saying something like, "Oh, you can do what I do." And I was like, I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Or like, "Thanks." Maybe you say it to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I guess,
Yeah. Right.
So I didn't even think twice when they said that to me. It wasn't until in my 20s that I started to hear it come up again more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think my mom planted the seeds for me to be open to this stuff. I even remember when I was in high school, my cross country coach made us do these visualizations, which is basically or basically hypnosis, of preparing for the cross country meet. He would walk us through the course. And all we were doing was laying down by the chapel on our campus in this, like, under the beautiful trees, and just laying there and imagining the course that we were going to run, and where these parts are going to be harder because there's hills, and this part's going to be more of a sprint because it's downhill. And so when I could go through the course in my mind, and we did this several times a week, by the time we got there on Saturday to run the course, I already ran it in my head 3 times. So that was the power of hypnosis when I was in high school, that I started using my understanding the mind a little bit more. Um, I didn't put it all together with like it being able to heal my body right then and there.
Yeah.
But when things got really, really bad, like I said, I didn't really have a mentor to ask about these kind of things. I didn't know what to do. My mom would put her hands on me, and especially when I was in that hospital in Oakland, my mom would lay her hands on me, and I asked her what she's doing, and she's like, "I'm doing Reiki on you." And she's never been attuned. Actually, I taught her and attuned her, but she has special gifts, right? And a lot of people, natural healers, they already know what to do. And so she was just laying hands on me and basically, praying over me. And it after I got out of that Kaiser hospital, my husband was looking up hypnotherapists in the area, and we found this wonderful lady in Oakland, and he vetted her before he even told me about it.
Wow.
So he stepped out of the hospital room and called this woman when I was in the hospital and told her my story, and he said, "I think you can help my wife." And I got on the phone with her when I got out of the hospital. I called her a couple days later, and yeah, sure enough, I was in her office, or in her, in her home, and did 4 sessions with her, and it helped me so much. But like I said, I do think it's because I was open to it as a young, a child or a teen, and it was super helpful. And like with Reiki, it's funny because my mom, would talk about Reiki, and she would get Reiki and all this stuff, but or get like Hawaiians would lay hands over, right? I think in every culture, in every century, centuries past, has healers that lay hands over and heal.
Yes.
It's energy work.
Yep.
So my grandma had a aneurysm and a stroke in 2013, and we had moved back to Hawaii to allow my body to heal. I wanted to be in Hawaii. and Rod was going back and forth for work between California and Hawaii. But I knew my body needs to go home. I knew I needed to be by the ocean, I need to be with my family and my friends. I need to heal. So somehow we got from the hospital to Hawaii and got a place, and I was able to try to heal just work on my own healing. And my grandma has this stroke and aneurysm on Maui, and my mom didn't find her till hours later. And we could tell because when they found her, she had like her makeup on the bed, and like she puts it on when she was gonna go play like bingo, and that was like at 10 a.m.
Wow.
So my mom didn't find her till like 7, and she was trying to reach the cord and she couldn't reach her pull cord. I don't know how my grandma survived that. But on Maui, they don't have the tools to keep someone alive with that kind of, how far gone she was. So my mom just said, medevac her to Queens on Oahu. So they did. And she was in a coma by the time she got to Queens. And I was living on Oahu. So, obviously we drove there as soon as we found out they like landed in Queens. And I had to hold space for my mom. I mean, she was just losing it.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the hospital and my mom having like a family meeting in the visitors area, or like the waiting area. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, it's my only time to be alone with my grandma. And I wanted to be with her alone because there were so many people and it was kind of chaotic and all these doctors and nurses coming in, and I just wanted to talk to her by myself. Yeah. And so when everyone was in this meeting with my mom and she was filling them in about the doctors and what they said about grandma, I went in by myself and I started hearing something tell me to get up because I was sitting there and put my hands like this over her head, and you couldn't stand behind her because obviously she's in the hospital. So I sat on the side and then had my hands over her head, and to visualize violet light and to imagine it coming through the top of my head, to my heart, out my hands, to my grandma, and just to send her love. And I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. But I do know as I was doing that, her right side of her body started to twitch. Wow. She's in a coma. Yeah. So I was like, okay, something's happening. So I run outside, I grab my husband. I'm like, come here. And he's like, what? I was like, just come here in the room with me now. And so he gets in the room, and then I go back to where I was and I put my hands, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, just watch. Yeah. Like, just watch her body. And he's like, okay. He still don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm doing it, and she twitches again. And he's like, keep doing it. He's just like, just keep doing whatever you're doing. Yeah. 2 days later, she comes out of the coma.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Whoa. She's still alive, you guys. She's still alive. And that was 2013. She's outlived a lot of people in her nursing home. She's outlived several people who came to see her in the hospital. It's now 2021. There's been many times that I told my grandma, if you're ready to go, Grams, you can go, like you don't have to stay in your body anymore. Like, and things will be fine on earth. Yeah. Like I'll figure it out, I'll help mom or whatever. But I think she still likes being able to go in between lives. Like she goes and sees my grandpa when she goes to sleep. And then like when she's awake, she's back in her body. Yeah. And she likes to check in on everyone. So she's kind of in this middle zone, which I think she thinks is kind of cool that she can access both sides. So she's still alive. And I always say she was my first client because I practiced on her so much that her life force energy is still super strong. That's why she hasn't passed yet, because her life force energy is super strong. Yeah, so she can't walk, she barely talks now, but her life force energy is strong. Yeah. So I worked on her like at least 3 or 4 times like a week for like over a year. Wow. So she really was who I practiced on. And even though she didn't talk that much, watching her body react to the energy, because I could see where things would twitch. I could see when she would move her head a certain way. I could tell she knew I was working on her just by her nonverbal feedback. So yeah, she was my first client. But after that experience, I had to go learn for myself. And I went back to my mentor she's a psychic medium, but I also knew she taught Reiki. And I said, okay, Yoshie, I think I'm ready to take your class. And the thing about Yoshie, you guys, is, in 2012, when I moved back to Oahu, I sought out a medium to ask her how my friend passed away. Because I wanted to know. And I did communicate a little bit with my friend, and he didn't tell me all the details because he didn't want me to have the burden of knowing all the details of his death. He just wanted me to take care of his family. And there were a lot of rifts within the family at the time, and he wanted me to bring them back together. And so I did that by starting an essay contest in his name, and that went on for 3 or 4 years. And that was my way of honoring him, and that was my way of bringing his family back together. But I went to see Yoshie for the first time to talk to him, and whoever, he came through a little bit, but my grandpa took up the whole session pretty much and talked to me, both grandpas, really. But they were saying to Yoshie, and Yoshie wasn't going to say this to me, but I remember at the end of the session, and this is the session that she said my grandpa's bringing my husband. Oh, not bringing my husband, approved my husband. He liked Rod, but said that my grandpa took credit. Like, I brought this dude to you. Mm-hmm. But my grandpa said to me, so Yoshie goes, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your life because you have free will. But your grandpa wants you to know that he sees you doing something similar to me. And I was like, I don't want to go back to school to be a therapist or a psychologist. Like, I don't want to go back to school to study psychology. I already have my master's degree. I have my bachelor's in journalism. I have my master's in communication. I don't want to go back to school. And it was just so funny that she goes, no, it's more like a certification. You don't need to go back to school to do what you do. And the vision she told me she had was she saw thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I was going to help in my lifetime. She goes, Britt, there's so many. I just see them all. They're all there. They're all looking at me. All these people you're going to help doing something similar to me. And I left that session in 2012, not able to get that out of my head.
Wow.
So when the thing happened to my grandma, I felt like that was the first nugget of like, go learn Reiki.
Yeah, right.
And then I took her mediumship course from Yoshie, and then I learned life coaching, and then I wanted to go learn hypnotherapy. So I started putting all these tools together, but it was really my guides who told me coaching, hypnosis, and Reiki. Have those 3. And I know when I launched my business in 2013, I was the only one doing all those 3, at least in Hawaii. Yeah. And somehow from the very beginning, I knew those 3 tools working together was going to be able to help a lot of people because it, was helping me. And like I said, prior to all of this, I was a journalist and I was doing PR work. I taught for 2.5 years as a journalism, instructor. People call me professor, but instructor because I didn't have my PhD. At Hawaii Pacific University, I worked for several senators. My last job was at like Santa Clara University doing their writing and copy editing work for their Office of Marketing and Communication. So I'm very well versed in that PR journalism world.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be my life. And until my grandpa planted that seed in my head, I could not get the vision out of my head. And that was 2012. And I launched my business in 2013, and I just figured if this helps me, this can, and my grandma, this can definitely help a whole lot of people. So it went from like just learning to help myself to like, I think I can help others with this. Like, this is too much of a gift and a coincidence to like just keep it to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that transition from a more traditional workspace and how you saw the trajectory of your life, having this pivotal moment, and then everything kind of like, all your plans that you thought you had went out the window. Like, what was that? you know, what was that transition like for you, when it comes to your family, when it comes to your friends, yeah, and anything else that you want to talk about when just
I
taking
mean,
that leap of faith of starting your business?
it's scary. It's scary because I wasn't healed yet and I knew I wasn't fully well yet, but I also knew what I was doing was working and helping me. And why go back to a 9 to 5 job in downtown Honolulu and drive in that fucking traffic to work and home and do the same grind?
Yeah.
And it just didn't excite me.
Mm.
First off, that didn't excite me. And I thought to myself, is it possible that I could do this? And sometimes we just need to see one person that's doing what you want to do. And they raise the ceiling in your mind of what's possible. And for that was Yoshie. She was doing this full time. She was living in a very expensive part of Oahu. She still is. And she was happy. And she made her own schedule. And she worked from her home. And like I was just like, okay, it's possible. And I just needed to see that it was possible. And so I thought, okay, let me see if I can find a little office space, you know, and just, and my friend at the same time was starting her or getting a new office space because she was a massage therapist and she had some extra rooms. And she really helped me out. I'll never forget. She really helped me out with like a really cheap rent. I think I didn't pay more than like 250, but I only had a couple days a month. Just a couple days a month. But it was enough to get me started, and I looked professional. I had an office building, you know, I was in an office building, and it was cool. And as I built my clientele, then I ended up getting my own space like less than a year later, like just like probably half a year, 6 months
Wow.
maybe, and then I was already moving on to getting my own space in Kapolei. So it really just, it's about surrendering to the process and trusting that if you take the first step, the next couple steps will show up, the next couple steps will show up. You're not meant to see the whole staircase. You're not meant to know how it's all going to work out. But I knew that I was going to help a lot of people, and I'll never forget that image of all those people she said that she could see, because I could see it too. You know, I started to, when I thought about what, you know, when any time someone says they see something, you imagine it. And so I had that image in my head, and I knew if I just kept going, I could help a lot of people. And all these experiences are not for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, all the things I've been through in my life is not for nothing. It actually made me more compassionate. I was always that person in boarding school, into boarding school from, you know, Kamehameha school since 7th through 12th grade. And I was the one everyone told me all their problems, like all their deep traumas and things that went on in their family that like no one should know about. They told me. So I was giving life coaching sessions like, fuck, like all the time in like 7th and 8th grade, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just came kind of naturally for me, the life coaching part, the holding space part, the listening part, the empathy part. And every day, you know, when I did Reiki, when I first started out, I was always joke with my, you know, spirit team. I don't know who you are yet. I hope you show up though today, you know, because I would joke that if I did like this and like nothing happened, like, and I'm charging them money for a session, right? And but it was just nobody understood my vision. And it's funny I'm saying this now because I feel that way sometimes now, that I have such big vision and I can see details of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking people to trust me because it's gonna be good. But the same thing was back then. Like my parents tried to tell me to go back and get my 9 to 5 job back at the university. You know, yeah, my parents, I swear how many conversations I can remember on the phone that they were just like, I was like, oh, I'm really excited and I learned this. And they're like, that's great. That's great that you can use that for you, but you should go back and get your job, or like you should go back, you know, and be somewhere more stable, you know, where you have health benefits. And, but, you know, my back was up against the wall. I walked away from a really good job at Santa Clara to take care of my health. And I feel like I'm already here. I already left corporate. Like,
Yeah.
why go back? Like, just keep
Totally.
going. Like, let's see what else like,
Yeah.
what other things I could add to my life to just feel more purposeful and happy. And I didn't have too many like really big cheerleaders in my corner. I had people going, well, let's see what happens, and then I had people going crazy,
Yeah.
and or I don't understand what you're trying to do. And then I had a handful of people that I shared with that got it. They said, I don't understand all of this, Britt, but I know that whatever you put your mind to, if you wholeheartedly put your mind to it, it's going to happen. I just know how you are. And Rod believed in me, and he didn't think I was crazy. And what motivated him, which he shared, yesterday,
Yeah.
was that he didn't want to see me in the hospital again. So if this was going to make me healthier and happier and better, he was all for it. And so he came along for the ride and was super supportive from the start. And, I luckily didn't have pressure the first couple months to have to make money. I was able to invest in my certifications and learn more and slowly build. And but yeah, people laughed at me. People thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
They still probably think I'm crazy, but the noise wasn't loud. Like I felt like I was gonna let down my ancestors and my guides. I'm more afraid of letting them down than any person in the physical.
Yeah.
I'm more afraid of letting down my ancestors and guides than my parents, than anyone else's judgment, because they weren't there that day when Yoshie said what my grandpa saw.
Yeah.
And that vision just holds me in so many ways because I know that I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to them.
Yeah. And would you say like that vision is one of like the core things that kept you going? Was there anything else like amidst and maybe you can even talk about this too, just like any hesitations that you had, taking this leap of faith into, creating a whole business, where, as you've said many times, like healer in business, like.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was like, how do you put those two words together? Like healing business. I couldn't, that was my block. I think in the beginning was like, can I really do this? Well, Yoshie is, and she has a lot of integrity. She does a good job, and she charges what she's worth, and she's not afraid to charge what she feels she's worth.
Yeah.
And so I saw it, I had an example of it, but I still wasn't sure I was able to. And I was honest with her one day during a session. I said, I have to ask you something. I think I could do this as a business. Like I had a business before. That's another thing. I had a business before. I had a magazine. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
That I learned so much from that first business. And my husband was very, very supportive, like very supportive. So that was really helpful. And he just like trusted me. He's like, whatever you think, like I trust your decision making and your gut instincts on things. So, but I asked Yoshi, I was like, how do you this healing thing and business thing, like how they're not even supposed to go together. Like in Hawaiian culture, you just do. Like you just but I also seen a lot of Hawaiian healers get sick and die young. I seen a lot of Hawaiian healers not healthy, just honestly not healthy because they would work 9 to 5 jobs and then be exhausted from that and then go drive to someone's house and heal them at night and then maybe get $20.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Like the energy exchange was off.
Yeah, the energy exchange is so off. That's why they're so drained and exhausted.
Yeah.
So when Yoshie explained that money is just energy and that we cannot block the flow of energy exchange. So when you do for someone, if you don't receive, it's off. The energy exchange is off. Either you feel drained or depleted or a little resentful, or if you don't want to accept money, that person feels off to ask you again to do anything for them because they feel like they want, so it's just the flow of energy. And when she explained that money was energy, I really grasped that concept. Yeah. I really, really did. And one of my values is to under promise and over deliver in everything in life, really. But I have to charge a certain amount to feel good, to show up at my best.
Yeah.
And hold space and be excited to do the session. But I'll always over deliver. Whether that means an extra 20 minutes, whether that means a follow-up check-in call, whether that means a free crystal, a bracelet, like whatever that means.
Yeah.
I always over deliver in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I always want them to feel like they got everything they needed in the session.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important to me. But yeah, really just getting over the money part, because I know a lot of people are going to have, I mean, I teach students who have a hard time with that because of all this like programming as a child about, not their beliefs about money, but their family's beliefs, their parents' beliefs about money. And so that, I know that I am teaching people how to tap into their gifts, but I also have to teach them that if you really want to do this as a business, you have to change your relationship with money and be okay with energy exchange for your gifts. And yes, you can do trades, and yes, it doesn't have to be money. You could do it for dinner. You could do it, some kind of exchange, but dinner doesn't pay your electrical bills. Dinner doesn't pay your mortgage. You need to charge at some point. And I always say that most healers have a hard time because in past lives, we were healers that never had to worry about the coin.
Right.
Because the village took care of us. The village built our house, our hut. The village brought us food, and all we had to do was focus on our healing work. That's all we had to do. Meditate, practice our gifts, get our herbs, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
We never had to worry about business. And then we come back into this life and we're like, we got to do what? And the healing work?
Right.
Like, wait, I didn't sign up to be a business owner and a healer. Like, this feels off. And so I feel like I'm just a couple years ahead of my students in understanding how it all is going to work. And so I like to teach them how to heal that relationship with money so that they can create a strategy and a structure for their business that can make sure they always have money to take care of their family and themselves. So because when you don't worry about money, you can fully focus on giving more and being of service to more people. But if you're always worried about how you're going to get your bills paid, you're not going to help as many people. Period. End of story. And healers need resources, because when healers get resources, we have big hearts. We distribute that to the people who need it.
Yeah.
Right? So healers have big hearts. They're going to do the right things with the resources that they have, but we need to have resources.
Yeah.
Which means we need to charge for our services. And there will be moments when you know not to, when you know you just give on this one.
Yeah.
But you can't be broke giving away everything. So I really want people to wrap their mind around that you don't have to learn from me and want to do it full time. You can learn these tools from me and remember your tools that you have and work on your family and your community, your circle. That's fine. But we need more full-time healers in this world. And so if you feel called, I will show you the roadmap, because I wish I had that. I didn't have that. I had to figure a lot of things out myself. I didn't have a community of healers to go to and ask questions to. I figured a lot of things out by myself, when I want to save people years and money so they can get on with it, get on with the journey and help the world heal. We don't have time, people. I know time is a human construct because, we can vote on daylight savings. So it's a human construct that we made up. And other, dimensions and all this time doesn't exist. But on this earthly plane, we don't have time to sit on our hands for a couple more years and then slowly figure this out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to save people a lot of time on how they can do this full time. And I'm an example because my husband is retired now. I'm the sole provider for my family. And so I know I can teach people how to do this and quickly.
So, and that being said, like, what are some of the top tips or advice that you would give to people who are wanting to turn their healing gifts and offer it up as a business and just create a business model from it? What would you recommend for them?
I think people always have to remember that we're here to heal ourselves first and foremost. So when you learn Reiki or when you learn energy healing, you need to constantly work on yourself. You need to create a spiritual routine and habits that allow you to stay grounded, to stay in alignment with your purpose, and really working on the shadow work, the inner child wounds, the karmic debt, those types of things. Like, you need to continue to work on yourself. do you have to be fully healed to work on others? Absolutely not. I wasn't. Um, but you have to be very aware of, the things you still need to work on, and you have to be working on them. We can only take our clients to the depths that we have gone. And so if we don't dive deep and work on ourselves, like, then it's a lot of surface stuff. So um, I think creating a spiritual routine, which we talk about in Reiki 1 and 2, and how to protect yourself and how to do the work. Be the example, do the work, heal yourself, heal for future generations, heal for your ancestors because your parents couldn't do it. Do the work. Um, and then be a team player if you're coming on board with us. We have a big mission. We're moving as a group and as a unit. And we don't have room for competition energy. This is not a competition because we're trying to heal the world. And there are so many people who need healing that there is not enough of us for there to be any lack of resources, because there's more than enough people that need the healing. So we don't even, use that word in our group. It's more about collaboration and supporting each other and cheering each other on, and networking and finding, everyone will find the healer that works best for them.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to work on your mom, but another Reiki practitioner that'd be really good to work on your mom. Like, that's what I mean. So it's about allowing people to find the healer that resonates with them. And every healer needs a healer. So we all need to help each other. Even imagine if everyone in the world could use their hands to heal, we would all still be very busy because everyone needs healing. That's how abundant, unfortunately, where we're at where we're at in our timeline right now is the world needs more healers.
Yeah.
So if you want to come along with what we're doing, then we'd love to have you, if you can have the same values and align with what we want to do. And that's the exciting part. It's not really been done yet, the way we're moving about this, and supporting each other, and sharing knowledge, and pumping each other up, and like just being there for each other, because like we have stuff we need to still work on too. So we turn to the team members like, hey, need a session today.
Yes. Sure do.
Yeah. And I think that this is not, look, Reiki, you can find a Reiki certification anywhere online and probably pay $100 to do a self-study course, and maybe another 100 to become a Reiki master, and they'll print you your certificate and mail it to you, and you probably might not do anything with that.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I'm here about efficiency and effectiveness and understanding your purpose, and getting off the wheel of karma, and not creating more karmic debt in this life. And so there's a lot of ways that I do things differently, the way Holomoa Healing University does things differently, the way our heal team does things differently from other places out there. And you will have to find if we're the right fit for you, and I'll have to figure that out. I'll have to figure that out too. But I think you have to have a bigger vision beyond just you and your ego. This has to be about helping people remember who they are and how powerful they are, and empowering them to heal themselves, and that our mind is so strong, and that our body was designed to heal itself, and it's just coming back to who we are. And this world needs more love. This world definitely needs more love and patience and understanding and compassion and empathy. And so if that aligns for you, then you're on the right path. And I just want to say that I do talk about tests. I tell the students that you will be tested at some point, and they look at me like, what are you talking about, tested? And I said, not necessarily in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, where there is light, there is also darkness. There is duality on the earthly plane. There is a duality of light and dark. And there are people, people like, when I'm teaching Reiki, I always say, somewhere in the world, a bunch of people are doing the exact same thing and needing to do really bad things in the world.
Yeah.
And so while we're sitting here meeting to learn more about healing and spread more light and love, there are people, there are forces doing the exact same thing to fuck with humanity.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the best, their intentions are not good.
Yeah.
And so I talk to my students that there will be times they will be tested and visited by some dark stuff. And you have to stay firm and stand in your truth and stand in the light and say, I only work for the light.
Yeah.
I still remember when I just decided to really do it as a business and really like put myself out there, I was getting visited like for 3-4 months straight by some dark stuff that just was like holding me down every time. The first 10 minutes I would fall asleep, just like hold me down. Like it felt like sleep paralysis, but it was like 3 dark things just like closing in on me.
Wow.
And right there in my face, couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I could only open my eyes. I couldn't scream for my husband. So many times he's like sitting there watching TV. And for minutes, I could not get them off until I kept screaming in my head and visualizing my heart. It's like a golden light, just pushing everything out. And I would just say over and over in my mind that I only work for the light, or I am the light, I am the light, I am the light. And I called Yoshie one day, which is why having a mentor on this journey is very important, to be able to ask questions to and to make sure you're not going crazy, because I would feel like I would be going crazy if I didn't have someone to ask this to, someone who's been further along on the journey than me.
Yeah. So
and I was like, hey, like this is happening, has this happened? Have you heard this happening? And she was like, it's like the NFL draft. And they know you're stepping into your power. They know you're serious. Your energy is getting stronger. They want to recruit you for the dark side. And I was like, fuck, that's a thing, because you see it in the movies, you see it in the movies and stuff. And
right.
Yeah, and it's a thing, guys. And that's the thing. It's like you have to stand in your truth and just claim the light. And so I kept doing that, and eventually after several months they left me alone. But it was an experience. And another test was around the same time I like was launching my business. Like I was doing some like, journalism, like freelance journalism things on the side, and I had to interview Monsanto for a pretty big front page story on a magazine, on Mana magazine. Actually, the name was Mana magazine, and it was a Hawaiian magazine. Yeah. And they actually offered me a job. They were so impressed with how professional and how smart I was that they offered me a job to be their PR director for the whole Pacific. And I knew, you guys remember, I was broke. I was just starting my business. I'd left my job at Santa Clara. I was, healing from being sick and getting offered 6 figures in Hawaii and a new car and whatever I wanted, really. That was a big deal. But I knew in my heart I could not take that job. I knew in my heart that I was thinking about my friend's family that would totally disown me for working for Monsanto. And the local people did not like them. It was a big issue the time I, was writing these articles. So I was like, well, there's that. But also I remember having this phone call with this guy named Mark, and he's a really nice guy. But I said, Mark, I don't want to hear too much more of what you're proposing. I just want to say that I'm starting a business. It's a healing business. I do Reiki, I do energy work, and I really want to help people heal. And I'm sure it sounded like, that's like if somebody was like offering you a job at like, I don't know, like CNN or like, like Washington Post. And you're like, I just want to go work for this like monthly, small town magazine, like it's just, what? You're crazy, right? And so that was a test, and I feel like I passed the test. And I remember calling Rod and telling him about the conversation I had with this guy and what he was offering me. And it was pretty much like it was my job. Like if I wanted it, it was mine, because they were just so impressed from like all those other times I had to talk to them, interview them. It felt like that was in their mind, that was my interview.
Yeah.
But I told Rod, and he was like, how much? Like, and then we're broke. Like, I mean, he was holding it down, but I wasn't contributing. I was still healing. And he kind of like whimpered for a little bit, like, oh man, like that would have paid off like so much of our debt.
Right.
And then I said, if you trust me on this, I know in time the universe will take care of our family. I
Mhm.
don't know how this is all going to work out. I just know that I'm supposed to be doing this healing work. And if we just trust it, it'll be okay. So I
Wow.
remember a couple of years ago when I made more than what was offered to me from Monsanto in my yearly in my business made more than what was offered to me from
Yeah.
Monsanto. I was like, okay, there it is. Like there it is. Now we've come full circle because I did say the universe would take care of me if I just stayed true to the course that it wanted me to be on.
Yeah.
I just know that there will be tests. As soon as you think you pass all the tests, they'll go one more.
Oh
Like
yeah.
let's just check if you really understand all your lessons. Let
Yeah.
me throw one more thing at you.
100%. And speaking about, having people in your circle who support you, like how do you feel, how important do you think it is to have a partner who is supportive, or even just like anyone in general, just to be on your team along your journey?
I think when people are first starting out and like really make a decision, this is what they want to do, they have to be careful who they share that with because you want to share it with people who are going to be supportive. It's really hard when your partner or your spouse is not. I would not be able to be where I'm at if my husband was trying to derail me the entire time
Yeah.
or didn't believe in me or laughed at me. I wouldn't be able to do. I mean, this is a family business at this point because I'm going to hand this off to my daughter. And Reef inspired all of this, by the way. He really has, my son has really taken Holomua from just like this smaller vision I had of it to like what it is now with this university. And I
Yeah.
always would joke when we found out he was autistic when he was 2. I always would say like we're gonna have an X-Men school for people like Reef.
Yeah.
Like I always would say that, and I can't wait to teach more. Like the kids are coming, but I can't wait to teach more kids.
Yes.
Not even teach them. I'm probably gonna learn from them because they already know how to do this work. They just need a little bit of structure,
Yeah.
and a safe space to keep practicing their gifts. And I do see the university as being a safe space where we understand them and we can pair them up with a mentor and things like that. So it's so funny. He's making noise right now. I can hear him. But yeah, did I answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
I think it's absolutely important to have a partner that is supportive. Can you still do this without a supportive partner? Yeah, but it's going to take you a lot longer and be a lot harder because when they plant seeds of doubt into
yeah.
your mind, it doesn't help you because the world is already going to say you're a little off and crazy doing this work.
Right. Yeah.
Society is going to say that
Hmm.
unless you're talking to another healer, you know. So if you have a partner that's dropping self-doubt seeds into your head, that does not help you go faster.
Right.
Unless you really like to prove people wrong, then maybe. Because I still remember when my dad told me, no one, you can't convince the world this is real. Oh,
Mhm.
that's stored. Don't worry, that's still stored in my head. Watch me.
Yeah.
Um, it's not important for me to convince anyone. And I actually told him, I'm not trying to convince anyone what I do is real. But let's just
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute. If energy healing wasn't real and we didn't have life force energy running through us, we'd all just be dead.
Yep.
And so when people say they don't believe in Reiki, I'm like, well, it's like gravity. Even if you don't believe in it, it's working
Yeah.
because it's a universal law. So
Yes.
if you don't believe in gravity, but you're still being pulled towards the earth and you're standing there, it still works. So you don't have to believe in Reiki, but it still works. Like energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred or transformed. That's a law. That's something we learn in physics. This is not woo woo what we do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just funny when I hear that. Sorry, I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
where I was going with that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely important to have someone who trusts you enough to say, I don't know this whole world yet, but I will be there to support you. And if you're helping people, like that's what the world needs more of.
Yeah.
And I trust you. And please get yourself a good mentor who's doing it so you can follow in their footsteps. I think, dude, a huge tip is finding the right mentor. I would not be where I am without Yoshie. I would not be where I am without Master Cole and my pranic healing work that I've learned from him. I would not be where I am without Raven Keys. There's a lot of people, um, and Lynn Bloss she was the one I became a Reiki master under. And like these people have helped me along my journey. And I'll always acknowledge the people who've been very pivotal in not only believing in me, but showing me in my mind it is possible to do this work full time with love, with integrity. And yeah, like, and they've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you are obviously you're a life coach, you're a hypnotherapist, you're certified in hypno breathwork, medical Reiki certified. You're also certified in pranic healing. You facilitate past life regressions. You already
Mhm.
touched on it a little bit before, like why these healing modalities are important, at least those three. Can you talk a little bit more about why that was important for you to offer all of these and what the vision is within the modalities that you've learned
Mhm.
and Holomoa Healing University?
Yeah. And I feel like Bruce Lee in a way, and I always say this to you guys, like, I take what fits and I leave what doesn't, and I add my own flavor to it.
Yeah.
And so learning from different people in energy work, learning hypnotherapy, I would take what works. And I created, the mana healing method. That is my method. And it is really working with breath, with your mindset, with your energy. And I do believe we need to coach people through things and ask the right questions so that they can arrive at their answers. And you ask better questions, you get better answers. And we need to help them process through talking with them. And when you add in past life regression work, also, that's another tool that I add into my method, is that we have to understand the contracts we made, why we came back into this world again, what karmic debt do we still have to pay off, what do we still need to learn, what lessons aren't we getting, what haven't we gotten yet. That's why we're repeating a pattern that we need to get,
Mhm.
need to understand the lessons before we can get off this wheel that we're running on.
Yeah.
But we're really here to learn, grow, evolve, and love more and leave this world a better place. um, but we decided a lot of things in our life that we wanted to learn before coming in. Yes, we have free will. On this earthly plane, we have free will. Human beings have free will. But we also made certain agreements to experience certain things and do things with certain people. Um, and the biggest thing to get us off the wheel of karma, and when I say that, it's like balance out our karmic debt for anything bad we've done,
Yes.
is forgiveness. Is forgiveness. And so if you think about forgiveness, it is a process.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight. There's probably many people you need to forgive. And so as you go on your healing journey, forgiveness has to be a big theme throughout your healing journey, because I always say this to the students, that the one emotion that people hold on to, which gets in the way of them fully healing, is resentment. And if somebody holds on to resentment, which means they cannot forgive, they will not fully heal. They have to understand forgiveness is such a key piece to evolving and moving on. And so I really am excited to share my method more with the world. I feel like, I always joke that, like, this is a time where we're going to look back where I only had 2,000 Instagram followers, even though I've been doing this work for 9 years now. But I really feel like this quiet time, I don't know about quiet because you guys know how busy I am,
Yeah.
but this, like, work in silence
Mm.
before the public knows more about you. But this time where I have really been able to hone in my tools and my crafts and my specific method and roll it out to students, and see how it's helped them, really fine tuning the details, almost like your beta before you bring it to the public and showcase like this new car, right? But you have to like work out the kinks. I feel like these last couple of years has been like that. Like, but I have to be the proof of concept, which means all these years that I've just slowly built my business and used these tools to help others has been my proof of concept. And then the last 2 years was, now can you teach your proof of concept?
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you do it? Can you help people? Can you teach it now? Can your students do it? And so that's how we help more people faster. And I don't want my students to ever say they have to do it the way Britt does it, because everyone has their own individual uniqueness, their own tools they use, that they like, their style of healing. And I want everyone to lean into their uniqueness and take from me what works and leave out what doesn't work from my method, and create what's yours. Create like your style, your flavor, your brand. So I encourage all my students, that's why I want them to start their own businesses. And some of, like you're working for Holomoa Healing University, but you also have your own business too. And it
Yes.
just goes hand in hand. And so I always believe in, yeah, just supporting people in their own uniqueness and their own tools. And but like I said, no one's doing what we're doing. We're moving as a team, but yet in our own glory and uniqueness at the same time. And I think that we were making our ancestors really, really happy by doing this work. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you could, and you did touch on it a little bit earlier with just like the X-Men school, but if you could sum up the Holomoa Healing University vision and Heal Team, for people, you mentioned Heal Team before, but just for, if people are hearing that term for the first time,
Right.
what does that mean?
I think Holomoa Healing University is going to be the legacy that we leave the kids. It's not BrittYap.com. It's not Mana Healing Method by Britt Yap. It's the Mana Healing Method, and it's Holomoa Healing University, because this is all of ours in that sense, that we're going to leave this to the kids and they're going to take this and run with it. This is going to be the home base to spreading just empowerment and love and reminding people how powerful they are and how they can heal themselves. This would be the hub and like the foundation, the home base for all of that. This is where people can come and tap into their gifts again. This is where they can feel safe. This is where they can meet other people like them. This is where the kids can meet other people like them, even if their parents don't understand them. This is a place I really see very soon that somebody is going to say to their parents, I don't want to go to Stanford. I don't want to go to Harvard. Have you heard this thing called Holomoa Healing University, where I can, tap back into my healing abilities, that I can meet other healers, and then I can learn how to structure my business so that I always will have, income coming in for my family, but be able to do my healing work full time. Like, mom, sign. Oh my God, I'm getting so much chicken skin talking about it. It's like, mom, sign me up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be like a trade school in that sense. And it's just gonna be it's just gonna grow and get bigger and bigger. And I have my nonprofit that will bring in the donations. Who knows? Maybe one day Holomoa Healing University will be a nonprofit, because a lot of schools are. But for now, High Vibrational Child is going to be the nonprofit arm that is able to bring in donations, so that I don't have to charge these kids, the full tuition.
Yeah.
They can get scholarships and things like that. I see the Heal Team and I traveling, the Heal Team are the people who have been kind of like my OGs, I guess, who have come through all these classes and have really honed in and understand how to do the how to do the Mana Healing Method. And they have put in the work to work on themselves. And I do see us traveling and taking my Mana Healing sessions all over the world and doing it in person in auditoriums of hundreds of people. And I see a bunch of us there doing, I'm on the mic and doing the hypnosis part, and then all the students are spread out amongst the crowd and just like sending, all the Heal Teamers are sending love and sending Reiki to the whole crowd. And that's how we help people heal faster and remind them what's possible. Just remind them what's possible and bring everyone back to their knowing. When we were little, we had a knowing, we had our intuition, we could trust it. And then we got programmed with all this stuff from our culture, society, expectations, our parents, and other authority figures in our life. And we just all this stuff got dumped into our mind while our brain and our mind was still growing. And, by the time you're 6 or 7, you're basically everything that was poured into you.
Right.
And you forget your inner knowing as like this pure child coming in.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like unlearning or stripping away the programming to go back to like your truth. And I do see us leaving this world better for the kids. And I do see the next generation really taking the baton and taking it even further. So I feel like we're laying the groundwork, and the kids are coming in are much more high vibrational. That's why I named the nonprofit that. They're much more high vibrational than us. They're almost like happy that I'm teaching their parents to catch up to them and their understanding.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids coming in, they call them the rainbow children, they don't have karma. So they don't have to work on balancing out or getting off the wheel of karma. They don't have any karmic debt to pay back. So they're just ready to go. Like they're like, let's go. Like
Yeah.
let's change the world. Like I don't need to be 40 to figure out my life purpose. And then like, no, I already know.
Yeah.
And so we need to nurture those kids. We need to nurture those kids so that they don't forget. And they don't have to be 40 figuring it out. We don't have time. Like I said, we don't have time.
No.
So I mean that's just my vision right now, but I know this thing can go much bigger, and the possibilities is just amazing. But it's kind of like the tree stump for the tree to grow.
Yeah.
And I see the university as kind of being that home base for everything.
Yeah.
Go from. Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to say in regards to the kids?
Come find Auntie Britt. I'm just super grateful for my daughter who's 16 months, acting like she's 16, by the way.
Yeah.
God, I can't wait till she can tell me what her past lives were. I can't wait. I don't even think I'd have to drop her into hypnosis. I think I could just interview her and she would remember. I can't wait to talk to other kids who have memories of what they were in their past lives. But I'm so appreciative for my son and just how my husband and I have been able to navigate his quote unquote diagnosis, and how society tells you that these kids are not good enough from the start, and like blaming the parents for like why are they so different and why this and that, and they make the parents feel so bad, and they make the kids feel so quote unquote tied down because they're not good enough. And I can't even imagine being in my beautiful son's body, observing the world and thinking that everyone outside thinks that I'm a burden, and I don't ever want kids to feel like that. So that's what the university is about too, is to be a safe space for them to meet other kids that have abilities like them, and be a safe space. And like this whole thing is really, one, my grandpa dropped the seed in my mind and got me moving on it, but my son's birth and all that we've been through with him has really ignited me. And just bringing my daughter into the world last year has just like, when she came into the world, I was like, we're all here now. We're all here now, and we can move now. We can move in such a way. Oh wow, now that I'm thinking about it, like, because things did speed up for my mission since she's been in the world.
Yeah.
Big time. This last past year has been crazy good, but I felt like when she was born, we're all here now, and like, let's go. And so I hope that resonates with somebody. But don't listen to what the doctors say or what the teachers say or whatever about these kids that are coming into the world, quote unquote different, with quote unquote fucking disabilities. Like, no, they're so much wiser and brighter than us. They just move about their way differently. My son's energy is so expansive. He's still trying to figure out how to fit it into that little body of his, because his energy is so expansive. So somebody's like regular aura, let's say it's like 6 feet out, this is like 60 feet out. His aura is huge, and so he's still trying to manage it. So I think a lot of the kids that do certain things, they're just trying to manage how big their light is, and trying to fit it into this human body. Wow. And so I'm so excited to work with the kids. Yeah.
Oh man.
I hope you learned something.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow. Yeah, I'm just like taking that all in. Like, it's just all this is so exciting, and it's watching all of this come together and watching you work and how dedicated you are to your mission. It's so, there are really no words. I could say inspiring, it's motivating, it's all of these things, but it's so much more than that. And what you're doing is so important, and building the team is so important, and offering a way for other healers to also step in their power, and creating these win-win situations, and just this showing everyone like how much just like abundance there is of whatever it is.
I just feel like I'm just a couple years ahead and I figured it out a little bit quicker, and I'm here to remind all of you. And
Yeah.
maybe we all had contracts that Britt was going to be the one that went in first, right? Whatever that means. Like, you know, when you just kind of march into the forest first and you yell back to everyone else what's up ahead.
Right.
I feel like I'm that person, and I'm just reminding you all what's up ahead.
Yeah.
And like, don't worry, it's gonna be okay, and like, just trust me on it.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool when we get to do past life regressions with a lot of the people who are on the heal team, and then I see that, oh, I knew you in a past life. Oh, that's why we're doing this again. Oh, okay. And so a lot of us are all working out our own karmic stuff with each other. And we've worked together before, and we're working together again. And we volunteered to come back right now because it's a very important, if this is the most important time in history on this planet, that big things will be decided in the next few years on how this all goes, which will affect the future of everything. So there's some people who are still asleep, and that's okay. We just let them know what we do. When they're ready, they'll come and ask more questions, but it should not stop you from knowing your truth and the path that you should be on. But this is not for the faint of heart. This is not easy. Everyone says love and light all the time, but this inner child and shadow work is heavy. You have to keep working on yourself, and keep up with your spiritual routine so that you can show up and hold space and be the best, healer you can be every day with a clear channel to your best abilities. So, but yeah, thank you for like holding space for me. And I'm sure a lot of people have questions. If they take my Reiki 1 and 2 class, they'll have a lot of questions after this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I don't know how I stay so motivated. I think it's the kids. I think it's the future. I think it's knowing my ancestors are proud of me and happy that I've listened to them, because a lot of times we keep asking for signs, but it takes like the 10th sign for someone to actually do something about it. And I've been really good about like taking the first or second sign.
Yeah.
I'll move on it. Yep. And other people want like, 10 signs, 10 different ways. And I'm like, no, dude, like they're trying to communicate something to you, like listen,
Right.
And so, yeah, I've been just a better listener. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I've just been a better listener, and I'll just surrender, because you don't have to know how it's all going to happen. You just have to have the vision and hold the vision of what you want for your life and for the better future for our kids.
Yeah. And that's something that you're so strong at, is having the vision, holding the vision, trusting the vision, and casting it for, for some of us who sometimes have a hard time seeing that. Right. Yeah. And it's so, and just like you said, like, it's so important just to stay close to people who are on the same path too. And
hold each other accountable, and we're good. When we need to hold up the mirror for each other, or when we need to be that soft spot for each other, or we just need to remind each other, like, it's okay. Everyone's having a bad week this week. Like, don't worry. It's the cosmos. It's not us. It's the cosmos. It's the planets doing its thing. But having people who understand you, and it's easy to be around each other as healers, because we don't have to hold space for each other, because we know how to hold space for ourselves.
Right.
So it doesn't feel heavy the way it would be like when you're talking to somebody else. Yeah. It's just easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people need that community. It's a community I never had. So I always ask myself, what would Britt at 21 need? And that's what I have created. Yes. What would someone like Reef need? And that's what I've created. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how I keep moving about things. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to say?
If you're not following me on Instagram, I'm pretty active there, and we have some really cool IG lives that we do. So please follow that. I also have some crystal sales. I sell crystals. I'll be doing a lot more around the holidays, that kind of thing. So Holomua _healing_arts. And then I also have High Vibrational Child on Instagram. And I didn't get Holomua Healing University started with pictures or anything post yet, but it is up, Holomua Healing University on Instagram. And I do have a Holomua Healing Arts on Facebook as well. And my YouTube channel is Mana Mindset. Okay, so you can check it out there. But yeah, check out my website too. And you'll probably be getting to know Caroline a little bit better too, because she helps me with a lot of administrative stuff and organizational stuff and getting back to people and things like that. So, but yeah, I just appreciate this time for you to hold space and ask me questions. And I think other people listening to this is really going to help them understand me, my background a little bit more, and my why, like why all this is so important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vision, for sure. I'm honored. This has been so amazing. I'm always like blown away every single time. And yeah, so thank you for letting me do this with you. It's been awesome.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.